Thank you, everybody. I'd like to call the July 3rd full board meeting order. We have a roll.
Strickland,
Here.
Forsythe,
Here.
Lightfoot,
Here.
Sheridan,
Here. Here.
Jeff,
Here.
Perkins,
Here.
Paul,
Here.
Packard,
Here. Here.
here.
Thank you. Mr. Denise, would you lead us in prayer? Followed by the
Dear Heavenly Father, this evening we thank you for the blessing of being able to gather here as free citizens of our nation. Tomorrow, as we celebrate the day that represents the 247th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the birth of the United States of America as a free and independent nation, let us reflect on the freedoms we enjoy and remember that long before independence, settlers from Europe had begun a Western expansion in order to find improvements in their lives. Too often we take the rights and privileges that have been afforded us for granted. Let us give thanks to those who have gone before us, who through their sacrifices have granted us the freedom to assemble here. Grant this body the wisdom to make the best decisions during our deliberations and the fortitude to stand behind them. We pray that you grant us the strength to put aside our differences for the greater good. And in the words of Irving Berlin, God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Amen.
Great.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This moment, I entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda by Ms. Stern, second. Hey, Mr. Knapp. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We need a motion for the approval of the minutes of June 5th, 2023, moved by Mr. Jeanette, second by Ms. Stern, Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Communications, Ellen?
A resolution was received from the town of DeKalb asking the New York State Legislature and Governor Kathy to prevent letter was received from the town of Morristown in support of the transfer of the Black Lake boat launch from Parks and Rec to the Department of Environmental Conservation. Two resolutions were received from Greene County. A resolution in support of National Infrastructure Bank and a resolution adopting a local law superseding the Public Officers Law, Section 3(1), as to the residency of certain public officers in Greene County. A resolution was received from Sullivan County opposing the adoption of New York State Senate Bill S6282, which would eliminate probation administrative fees. Three resolutions were received from Orleans County. Resolution number 322, supporting Essential Caregivers Act to protect humane visitation policies at long-term care facilities. Resolution 336, cry lack of transparency and impact analysis and renewal of compact with Seneca Nation. And resolution number 342, urging the governor to veto A0428-B and S3505B to move certain local elections to even numbered years. An email was received from Reverend Catherine Boswell of St. Philip's Church in Norwood supporting the passing of the CARE Act. A copy of the letter in its entirety has been emailed to legislators.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, we'll move on to citizen participation. Any citizen wanting to address the board is asked to stand before the microphone, state their name before giving the talk. The citizen participation will be in the form of an oral address to the members of the board. This part of the agenda is not a time for audio, visual, PowerPoint presentations, or performances. The address will be limited to 5 minutes. It looks like we have 7 on the list, and I'll do my best.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wes Lincoln. I reside at 346 County Route 53 in Brazier Falls. In my life, I've been a volunteer firefighter, United States Marine. I've been elected to serve as the Justice of Peace through the town of Lawrence. Currently, I serve as New York State Corrections Officer, and I've been appointed to serve as the Code Officer for the town of Brazier. I'm not telling you this to try and prove my integrity as an individual, but rather so you know I'm not a stranger to dealing with the government. On November 28th of last year, my wife and I opened Tri-Town Kids Daycare Center in Brazier Falls with a license capacity of 57. We jumped through many hoops and obtained our license to operate in a matter of only a few months. The state has listed our area as a daycare desert, which was a fitting term for our community, which had no licensed in-home or center-based daycares within our local school district. Ultimately, parents had no choice but licensed and regulated daycare in our area. It's been our desire to continue to grow our center. We employ 6 full-time, 3 part-time, and 2 substitute teachers. Our plan was to hire 2 additional teachers by the end of August. Unfortunately, we've recently stopped our search for new employees because we're unsure if we'll be open. On March 2nd, just over 3 months after we opened, during a phone call with St. Lawrence County Daycare Unit, who operates the Child Care Assistance Program known as CCAP, we apparently self-reported a violation to them, unclear exactly what it is. Rather than providing direction and guidance to a new center, which we begged for at this point, they instead chose to report us to a DSS investigator who then came to our center on May 17th, demanding we comply. In turn, their decision on June 8th to pursue charges, which according to them will go to the DA, according to their phone conversation. As of today, we still have no idea what we've been charged with, possibly overpayment from the county or how employees of ours have received child care assistance for their own children. We've essentially been set in a wild goose chase to figure this out before it shuts our business down. We've been told that these charges would likely lead to the center's removal from participation in the CCAP program, which would close our center. Currently, 21 of our children pay through the CCAP program. In addition to this, we would likely be removed from participation with New York State Daycare Desert Grants due to the pending violation status, which we have upwards of $200,000 remaining in that can assist with program development along with employee salaries and training. In addition to that, this will prevent us from applying for the upcoming employee retention grant for child care openings that's set to become available later this month. It's unfortunate that county DSS cannot come up with personnel to assist in training and answer our questions due to staffing levels, but has plenty of staff to send 2 investigators to our daycare center. My personal feeling is that DSS has treated us as criminals prior to an investigation, and this point has harassed not only us, but our staff, the parents of our children that attend our facility. I understand personally that it's nearly impossible to fight a government agency, and I would honestly close our doors to avoid all of this. Unfortunately, my wife has disagreed with me, so here we are. Maybe we've broken some regulation. It's honestly hard to tell at this point because we've been unable to get straight answers on regulations. If we did break regulations, then please teach us. Don't charge us with a crime. I can personally guarantee that our intentions have always been the best. We've had 2 staff leave our office as they were not a fit for the position, one of which was asked to leave due to inefficiencies with our office work. Even on the week that we celebrate our Independence Day, we Americans have all become guilty until we prove ourselves innocent. The headline in the news will likely read Tri-Town Kids Daycare Center charged with fraud by St. Lawrence County DSS. But I personally would word it differently, probably something like St. Lawrence County Department of Social Services strikes once again. The fact that we self-reported ourselves, which led to this investigation of fraud, leads me to remember Ronald Reagan's quote, "The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help." My plea tonight is simple. It's for the county legislators, the county administrator, or anyone to please speak with the commissioner behind closed doors if necessary about the things he won't speak to me about due to the ongoing investigation. Please wait until then to decide for yourself our guilt. Maybe you'll have a better understanding of how we got to this point in the first place. Thank you for your time.
The next up, Christina McCarthy.
Good evening. My name is Christina McCarthy. I'm his wife, and the reason he's here, he is a little more common speaker than I am. We live in Brazier Falls. I left working full-time as a registered nurse in the fall of 2020, taking a part-time job that better fit our needs as a soon-to-be family of 7, and I was expecting a 5th son. It was and still is evident the massive need not only our county has, but our entire state for adequate childcare options for working families. I stumbled upon the option to apply for the Invest in New York State Daycare Desert Grant for new providers, May of 2022, and took the first shot at applying for a grant I ever have. July 23rd, we were pre-approved with the condition of being completely open in 120 days. We bought, renovated, passed 13 inspections, staffed, and became licensed in 118 of those 120 days. And the only reason this happened is because we live in an amazing small community, the Tri-Town area. Due to our town, our staff, our friends, and our family for supporting us. We were one of 3 in the northern region, that's 6 counties that received this grant, and 2 of the 3 that actually opened new capacity. One was a pre-existing center that was purchased. So we've addressed that need. We have 6 classrooms with a licensed capacity of 57 between the ages of 6 weeks and 12 years. As of open on November 28th, we have 6 children. As of today, we have 30 actively enrolled, 4 per diem that will be starting next week for summer care, and 4 children that will be attending that are paid infant spots starting late August and into October. In the most basic sense, we have succeeded in the goal of filling a need in our community. And this goes to our legislators. This is not just our community. We have families that drive from Potsdam, Holton, Norfolk, and Messina, as well as all the communities, all the towns in the Tri-Town area. We are addressing this need. We also had the support of the town of Brazier, who allocated ARPA funds to us to provide a brand new HVAC system, as well as fence in a half-acre lot. We sit on 3 acres. We have a very utilized program, one of the only ones in the North Country, and our licensure from Syracuse, he said one of the only he's seen. We are trying to develop an agricultural component. Our kids spend every day outside. On 11/30, 2 days after opening, we chose to enroll in the Quality Stars New York program. It's a quality rating system that New York State will fund for child care programs to provide support resources and high quality education and also products and items for our center. This requires bi-weekly meetings for me as our owner and our director. Through this, we currently have 3 of our staff that are now enrolled in college classes for early childhood. The coursework and their books are all being paid because we are participating in this program. This not only will grow our people in our communities, this is also going to grow our center. Being a member of the Daycare Desert Grant has us being held to an extremely high standard. We are required to meet quarterly reviews. We have an opportunity to be afforded $400,000 to be paid out over 8 quarters, the last being June 2024. With this, each quarter has 6 specific deliverables that we are required to meet. Deliverable 2 requires that we be in good standing with all state agencies, and our current pending violation with the county has us at risk for this. We were quoted roughly a $2,100 variance by the senior investigator at the Department of Social Service. No other information was given. So for potential of a clerical error of $2,100 as a brand new center and a brand new provider, we are risking losing $200,000 for our community, for our staff, for our families. I got ahead of myself because I talk a lot. At roughly 3 months, I did self-report. Again, I talk a lot, so I don't know what I self-reported. I can't get that answer because it's an open investigation. We would love to find out. Estimated $2,100 in charges at the time of the call. The irony is that we had over $25,000 outstanding in reimbursement payments from the county at the time of this call. As a brand new small business, we were waiting for that money as we're trying to make payroll. I have 2 employees. I had the 2 employee turnover in a very short month's time. We've had to learn how to utilize a brand new automatic attendance system that we chose to use for our business that our parents absolutely love, but it has definitely had some errors with working out the kinks along the way. We've also had to learn how to fill out these papers. Archaic is the word I will use, papers that Department of Social Service uses. And there's modernized systems that need to be there. Families cannot be expected to wait 2 to 3 months for paying for a week's worth of childcare when it's more than what they're making. Only 29% of the allocated funds of this program were used last year in St. Lawrence County. Mr. Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner, anyone that's listening, please sit down with us to work on fixing this. This program has so many faults. We've had so many errors. We've had so many questions. We were given one piece of paper on how to operate this when we were approved. One, with 3 errors that I caught and was corrected 3 months later. We want this to work. It has amazing potential. Families of 4 can now make $90,000.
Thank you. Tom Grazier? Okay. Okay. Shelley Wilbur?
My name is Thank you for being here. I am a proud member of CFC2. I just want to take a quick moment to recognize that this is not the usual place that we would have this kind of discussion, but since it's already been openly discussed in this forum, we are taking the opportunity to set the record straight. I asked you please, I'm going to be reading my own statement and then I'll be reading a statement of someone else. I ask you please to hear my heart. I will never forget the day that I discovered that my ex-husband had molested our adopted daughters. I had stayed with my violently abusive husband for 10 years under pressure from my pastors. But that was the day that something snapped. I defied my pastors, reported the abuse, and left my husband. I lost everything, my community, my house, and my financial stability. If the CARE Act had been in place years ago, my church leaders would have been mandated to report my children's abuse. That would have required, that also would have required them to report the man who sexually abused multiple girls before moving on to my daughter. That reporting would have changed our lives. I can never know what that life would have looked like, but I sometimes mourn what could have been. For my children, justice delayed became justice denied. Church should be a place where children are safe and protected. Pastors, elders, leaders, and members, you are the gatekeepers. You have an obligation to protect the least of these. For far too long, perpetrators have been able to hide in church, where the pastors and leadership do not report the offenders' vile acts to authorities. Churches are a place for all sinners to receive God's love, but it must be a place where the most vulnerable are protected and where love includes responsibility and boundaries. There can be a balance for both. Recently, a man from our former church was sentenced to 6 years of probation for molesting his children. That's it, 6 years of probation. Why? Because the pastors at Christian Fellowship Center did not report the sexual abuse. Let that sink in. This act does not impede upon our free speech or our freedom of religion. It simply protects him. I'm also going to read a statement that was sent in from Bonnie Ogilvie. This comes all the way from Florida. This is actually the brave mother of the man who recently molested his children. Dear St. Lawrence County Board of Legislators, I am writing to you from my home in Florida as a former resident of St. Lawrence County and as the mother of Sean Ferguson, who was recently convicted of child sexual abuse. I write to you as a grandmother of children who suffered child sexual abuse that initially went unreported. 6 years ago, my daughter-in-law reported to the leadership of Christian Fellowship Center the sexual abuse occurring within the household. The elders and pastors who had knowledge of his abuse refused to report this abuse, even though they had been told this abuse was genital to genital touching and rubbing. His little girls were just 4 and 2 years old, and we ask that you can get the police report. Just 4 days after my husband passed away in 2001, while I was grieving and before I had had a chance to lay him to rest, I received some of the worst news that a mother can receive. My son had sexually abused his tiny children. Then I found out that this abuse had occurred 6 years earlier, and I was informed that my son's wife had reported this abuse to her pastors and looked for help from her pastors. The pastors decided not to report the abuse and left my grandbabies in the house with their molester. For these pastors, even an abusive husband is better than no father or husband in the household at all. My son finally received his sentence in May 2023. He was given 6 years of probation, required to register as a level 1 sex offender, and he remains in the home with his 5 children. The authorities could not bring strong charges against him because they needed 3 things: recent witness testimonies, recent victim testimonies, and cooperative guardians. They did not have any of these.
Like that.
Thank you very much.
Next one up, Brittany Harmer. James Harmer.
That was not. My name is James Farmer. I am a lifelong resident of St. Lawrence County. I live in Belmar, New York. I'm here to read a statement on behalf of Priscilla Purcell Pelton. Dear St. Lawrence County Board of Legislators, my name is Priscilla Purcell Pelton, and I lived with my 8 children in St. Lawrence County between 1998 and 2005. Making clergy mandated reporters through the CARE Act is a vital step in curbing physical and sexual abuse in the area. Presently, pastors are allowed to decide for themselves whether a crime has been committed and whether it should be reported to the authorities. Unfortunately, these shepherds are not trained to spot abuse, becoming easily deceived by perpetrators and their own flawed sense of judgment. Due to their lack of expertise in psychology, some pastors don't understand how difficult it is for an abuser to abstain from their indecent impulses indefinitely. Even if an abuser claims to be changed in a divine power, putting an abuser back with those abused or who took the prototype is like taking an alcoholic to a bar, placing a drink in front of him, and expecting no temptation for the alcoholic to drink. While residing in Governor, New York in 2000, the abuse that my husband put me and my children through became unbearable. We were members of Christian Fellowship Center in Madrid, New York, and when in 2001 I desperately sought the help of Rick Sinclair, pastor of the church, I was alone and feared no one would believe what my family was enduring. After Sinclair approached my husband regarding the allegations, he decided my claims were unfounded, even as reports of continued abuse were conveyed to him. Pastor Sinclair told me that he didn't want to be too hard on my husband because he had a great mind and he wouldn't want to ruin it. If the CARE Act was in place during my ordeal, Rick Sinclair would have been obligated by law to report the abuse, and help would have been immediate for me and my children. Instead, the abuse at home increased in severity and timing as my husband realized that neither Rick nor Bill Hull nor the other leaders of the church were going to seek legal assistance on our behalf. There were times during this 2-year ordeal, my children and I were uprooted from home, hiding from our abuser, while Sinclair told me I was delusional and had perception problems. I wasn't strong enough to get the proper protection that we needed due to intense fear, lack of support from my church family and friends, no money, and the unfortunate psychological conditioning that lifelong abuse produced in my psyche. Around 2003, I went to a family counselor in Watertown after facing continued abuse from my husband, Rick Sinclair, Bill Hull, and Christian Fellowship Center. Of course, this professional was a mandated reporter. And because of that, I received my impetus to file for restraining orders and divorce. I was told in his office that if I didn't immediately file for these court proceedings, he would have no recourse but to report my allegations to the authorities, which could result in the removal of my children from me due to lack of action. Had Rick Sinclair said these things to me 2 years earlier, I would have done the same, which would have spared my family continued trauma. The CARE Act isn't about religious freedoms. Christian Fellowship Center and churches like it declare that they have the right to protect men as the owners and head of their God-given households, no matter how badly they hurt family members. It is as if women and children are being sacrificed rather than protected by the laws of the land which churches are to uphold according to the Bible. Making clergy mandated reporters challenges their man-made theologies and forces compliance to protecting women and children as God has always intended. Please support the CARE Act. Most sincerely, Priscilla Purcell Helps.
Last, Abby Nye.
Good evening, legislators of St. Lawrence County. My name is Abby Nye. I'm one of the co-founders of CFC2, an organization that you have heard about tonight and perhaps have seen other places as well. And I'm here tonight to respectfully request that the Board of Legislators adopts a resolution in favor of the CARE Act and sends it to Albany. Now, you might be thinking, why bother? Albany's not paying attention to us. Actually, Albany is paying attention. My CFC2 colleagues and I have spent the last 2 months meeting with dozens of legislators in Albany. We were introduced on the New York Assembly floor and commended by the New York Assembly Speaker of the House for our work. Albany knows the names of Sean Ferguson and Rick Sinclair. Albany knows about Christian Fellowship Center. Some of those legislative staffers watched the video of your board meeting on June 12th. You have an opportunity to demonstrate to your community and to the state that St. Lawrence County values protecting children. You have an opportunity to communicate that protecting our most vulnerable citizens is more important than protecting abusers and pastors who cover up their crimes. When you strip away the disinformation and the red herrings, the CARE Act is really quite simple. It's a tool to protect children. If the CARE Act had been in effect in 2017, when Sean Ferguson's wife disclosed his child sexual abuse to Bill Hall, Bill would have been required as an ordained minister and former pastor of Grace Covenant Church to report his abuse. If the CARE Act had been New York state law in 2001, 2002, 2008, Rick Sinclair would have been required to report his father-in-law for abusing multiple girls. The CARE Act could have helped all of these victims. Instead, multiple pastors at CFC chose to withhold information about child sexual abuse. Every person who knows about abuse and does not report it is complicit in that abuse. This is why we need the CARE Act. And this is why it is important for you, as the County Board of Legislators, to take a stand in support of this bill. You can protect children, or you can remain complicit. The choice is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to presentation of resolutions. First up, Ms. Curran.
I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Legislators Inc. for fire investigation case management software and modifying the 2023 budget for the Office of Emergency Services.
And is there a second? Mr. Fay and Mr. Smithers and Mr. Jeanette, any discussions? Seeing no discussion, this is a roll call vote.
Webster. Aye.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tiger.
Yes.
15 yes.
Thank you. Next resolution, Ms. Curran.
I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the Cranberry Lake Fire Department, the town of Vine, and the village of Potsdam for sites to construct interoperability towers for each location.
And is there a second by Mr. Lightfoot and Mr. Hall? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Curran?
I have a resolution proclaiming July 16th to the 22nd, 2023 as probation, parole, and community supervision week.
And is there a second? Second by Mr. Jeanette. Mr. Perkins? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Curran?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign contracts for the county public transit buses with Passio technology for surveillance and automatic vehicle location systems, and with Kajit for mobile Wi-Fi systems.
And is there a second? Second by Mr. Jeanette. Mr. Perkins, any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Curran?
Yes, thank you. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign contracts with designated trail maintenance entities associated with New York State Snowmobile Trail Grant Program.
And is there a second? By Mr. Sheridan, Mr. Fay, Mr. Jeanette. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Curran?
I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign the 2023-2024 local sponsor signature form as part of the grant application to the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation.
And is there a second? By Mr. Denisham and Mr. Jeanette. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Curran?
I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign contracts requesting grant extensions for the Technology Innovation and Election Resource Tier Grant Program and modifying the 2023 budget for the Board of Elections.
And is there a second? By Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Fay, and Mr. Hall. Any discussion? This is roll call. Roll call.
Burke?
Yes.
Jeanette? Kelly?
Yes.
Curry? Aye. Reagan?
Aye.
Forsythe?
Yes.
Lightfoot?
Yes.
Sheridan?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Day?
Yes.
Haggard?
Yes.
Wester?
Ms. Curran?
I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign contracts requesting grant extensions for the absentee ballot prepaid postage grant for the Board of Election for the acceptance of the 2023 absentee ballot prepaid postage grant. That's come up.
Seconded by Mr. Lightfoot and Mr. Jeanette. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Ms. Curran?
I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign contracts requesting grant extensions for poll worker training / voter education.
And is there a second? Second by Mr. Smithers and Mr. Jeanette. Any discussion? All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Ms. Curran?
I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign grant amendments for early voting expansion grants contract extension, the E grant.
Seconded by Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Curran?
I have a resolution authorizing hourly rate changes for the examination monitors to proctored civil service exams for 2023 and 2024.
Seconded by Mr. Smithers. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Curran?
I also have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with ALSA for the eligibility of Medicare disability benefits.
And is there a second? Second by Mr. Lightfoot and Mr. Jeanette.
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
So. Any further discussion? All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign agreements with St. Lawrence County School Districts for space located within the facility.
And is there a second? By Mr. Jeanette and Mr. Smithers, any discussion? Yes, Mr. Arnold.
I think just because I'm employed by a school district, I'm gonna abstain from this one.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Carol L. Howell Morale for cleaning services for the Department of Social Services Satellite Office located at Harrogate Commons, 280 Main Street in City, New York.
And is there a second by Mr. Smithers, Mr. Jeanette, Ms. Curran, and Mr. Perkins? Any discussion? That is a mouthful right there. All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign an amended lease to include trash removal fees with the irrevocable spousal trust. FBO Richard A. Magan for space located at Harrogate Commons, 280 Main Street, in City, New York.
And is there a second? By Ms. Curran, Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign agreements with Claxon Heifer Medical Center, the Children's Home of Jefferson County, and Dr. Richard Leota of Clinton County for administering 730 psychiatric examinations.
Seconded by Mr. Smithers, Ms. Curran, Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Hall.
Chair, I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with NCC Systems Incorporated for security system monitoring and maintenance for the opioid treatment program.
Do we have a second? By Mr. Burke, Mr. Jeanette, Ms. Curran. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental transfer for an upper payment limit and modifying the 2023 budget for community services.
And is there a second? Second by Mr. Jeanette, Ms. Curran. Any discussion on the resolution? This is a roll call vote, Kelly.
Jeanette,
Aye.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Aye.
Reagan,
Aye.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Tanisha,
Yes.
Perkins. Hall,
Aye.
Bay,
Yes.
Haggard,
Yes.
Webster,
Aye.
Burke,
Yes.
15 yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution modifying the 2023 budget for community services for funding received from New York State Oasis to St. Lawrence County as pass-through funding to approved agencies.
And is there a second by Mr. Smithers and Mr. Jeanette? Any discussion on the resolution? This too is a roll call.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Aye.
Reagan,
Aye.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Tanisha,
Yes.
Perkins. Hall,
Aye.
Bay,
Yes.
Haggard,
Yes.
Webster,
Aye.
Burke,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Aye.
15 yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Mr. Chair, I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign the emergency preparedness program contract for the public health department.
Is there a second? By Mr. Jeanette, Ms. Curran. Any discussion on the resolution? All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution modifying the 2023 budget for the public health department for the epidemiology and laboratory capacity reopening schools.
And is there a second by Mr. Fay, Mr. Smithers, and Ms. Curran? Any discussion? Being no discussion, this is a roll call vote.
Curran,
Aye.
Reagan.
Aye.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Denisha,
Yes.
Perkins. Paul.
Aye.
Fay,
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Webster.
Aye.
Burke,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Aye.
Terminelli,
Yes.
15 yes.
Thank you. Mr. Holt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lastly, I have a resolution adopting a health and safety policy manual for St. Lawrence County.
Do we have a second by Mr. Denisha, Mr. Jeanette, and Mr. Lake? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next up, Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Usherwood Office Technology for a color printer for real property tax services.
Is there a second by Mr. Burke, Mr. Smithers, and Ms. Curran? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the Paradigm Software to upgrade the skill management and credit card payment software modifying the 2023 budget solid waste department.
And is there a second? By Mr. Burke, Mr. Smithers, and Ms. Curran. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, this is a roll call.
Reagan,
Aye.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Denisha,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Paul. Fay,
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Webster,
Aye.
Burke,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Aye.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Aye.
15 yes.
Thank you. Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution for establishing the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act budget for program year 2023.
Is there a second? And Ms. Curran, Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution is for approving the North Country Regional Workforce Development Plan and 2-year modification.
And is there a second by Ms. Curran, Mr. Perkins? Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next resolution is for the approval of payment in lieu of taxes agreement in relation to solar project on parcels 74.003-28-8.1 located at 6578 County Route 27, the town of Canton.
And is there a second by Mr. Burke, Mr. Lightfoot, Ms. Curran? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No. Mr. Perkins and Mr. Fay. Any other? Motion carried. Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next resolution is opposed to the All Electric Building Act. It's included in the 2024 New York State budget.
And is there a second by Mr. Smithers, Ms. Curran, and Mr. Lightfoot? Any discussion on the resolution? Mr. Denisha first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This, looking back through the minutes in September of last year, this body passed a resolution, and I'll quote, calling on the New York State Climate Action Council to craft a final scoping document that reflects the different climate zones and wells in the state of New York, and that no action be taken to reduce or ban energy sources until reliable energy sources that have been proven affordable and safe are in place. End of quote. New York State, NYSERDA, commissioned a group, RSG, Rosen Consulting Group, to do a study in June of 2022. And the results of the study estimate that overall costs to retrofit a typical gas power single family home in New York State ranges from $17,400 to $31,700. The median household income in St. Lawrence County is $54,351. The median per capita income is $27,457. This is from the United States Census. And we've just gone through this with Fort Drum, proposing the biomass power generation system. But my opinion only, we have an administration in Albany that is bent on implementing green energy, regardless of the end costs for those affected paying the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Denisha. It's almost like no one's listening. Ms. Kern.
Thank you. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor to this bill. And I would like to echo the sentiments that the last time I talked about it. We just had somebody come in to operations a year ago who talked about how these cogen plants that they're talking about shutting down are really the only thing that keeps the lights on. So if you want everything electric, and then on top of that, you want to get rid of the cogen plants that make the electricity, it's a bad idea. It's almost like not only are they not listening, but they're doing just the opposite of what would make sense to run the state.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Larry, for doing that research. What concerns me most is this is a war on the poor. This is a war on the middle class. The working men and women of New York State are going to be asked to spend tens of thousands of dollars that they don't have available to them if this passes and they're told to retrofit their homes. At a time when many families are struggling to pay basic costs, to pay their taxes, to pay their heating bills, to pay food, pay their medical bills. The state of New York needs to think about what it can do to improve life in New York State, not to make life more unaffordable in New York State. And sadly, this kind of misguided effort, which I'm sure in their view has the best of intentions, is not going to achieve its goals. What it's going to do is create more hardship for families who are already struggling.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan. Mrs. Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I stated in committee, this resolution leaves out quite a few caveats to the bill itself. I will not read it over again as I did, but you can all look back. Last time I checked, poor people in middle class breathe. And this is an attempt to lower methane gas. It is not as draconian as described in this resolution, and I will not support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Smithers first.
This is another example of a mandate from Albany, takes away choices that should be available, good choices for heating. We have a lot of people in the North Country that use wood for heating, and they want to take that option away, which eventually down the road, this is a step in that direction. Propane Natural gas is a very clean burning fuel, adequate supply. They don't want to explore the natural gas that's available because of the legislation in Albany. It would be nice if they would make electricity more affordable and to increase the attraction for that as an option. But the bottom line is it should be an option among others. And the fact is that a lot of the electricity that would go to supply this mandate is produced by fossil fuel burning plants. And we just can't provide the electricity that's going to be needed in a clean way that they want to achieve.
Thank you, Mr. Smithy. Anyone else that hasn't spoke one? Mr. Denise?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to, for what it's worth, at the end of this.
Certainly. You know, I think of all electric, you know, and everyone wants to breathe clean air. Right now, we're not breathing clean air, right? We're getting inundated. Actually, Europe's getting inundated with Canada there. So we quit burning wood. What happens when we quit tending to our forests? What happens when we quit tending to our forests? We get forests. And here we go again, cycling. The amount of whatever, methane or whatever produced by these fires in Canada will last for, I can't imagine how long. The amount of electricity that is being produced now in New York with all these solar farms, and the cost of electric does not go down. Usually when there's a glut on the market, it drives the price down. Not with electric. Why is that? Just a question I ask myself. I don't have the answer, but I ask it. In the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, my dad started buying apartment houses. We go in and renovate them, and we put electric heater, baseboard heater in them. We tried to follow the track in Messina. Messina had the cheap electric. Everyone talked about the cheap electric. Well, it didn't take too long before my dad started putting gas furnaces in those buildings. Just made no economic sense. So, little history comes back, I guess. All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mrs. Hager. Motion carried. Mr. Jeanette, next resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next resolution is appointing the planning director to serve as a certifying officer for the county in regards to the environmental review for community development block grant programs.
And is there a second by Mr. Perkins and Ms. Curran? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution is for closing the multi-use trail capital project.
And is there a second by Ms. Curran, Mr. Perkins? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. You got one more in you, Mr. Jeanette?
You got it, Mr.
All
Chair.
right.
The final resolution is for authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the Workforce Development Board for a sublease agreement for space in the One Stop Career Center.
And is there a second by Mr. Burke, Ms. Kern? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Smithers, would you do this one for me?
Sure. For a resolution authorizing filling of vacancies.
And is there a second? By Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Sheridan, and Ms. Kern. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Webster.
Modifying the 2023 budget to share occupancy tax for the St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce as prescribed in the 2021-23 agreement for tourism promotion.
And is there a second? By Mr. Jeanette, Ms. Kern, Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? On the comment, it must be working. It keeps going up annually, so something must be working. This is a roll call vote.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot.
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Tanisha,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Paul.
Aye.
Hay,
Yes.
Haggard,
Yes.
Webster,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Aye.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran. Aye. Reagan,
Aye.
15 yes.
Yeah. Mr. Lightfoot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer a resolution urging the governor to veto New York State Assembly Bill A 4282B and Senate Bill 3505B, an act to amend the town law, the village law, the county law, and the municipal home rule law in relation to moving certain elections to even number years, and I move for its adoption.
And would there be a second by Mr. Burke, Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Hall, Ms. Curran, Mr. Perkins, Mr. Webster? Mr. Lightfoot.
If I may, I know that everybody here has got a copy of this, can see it. I would sort of like to direct a couple of comments and observations to those that might be tuned in to our broadcasting this. If you look through this very well crafted resolution by our county attorney, you'll find that.
Mr. Lightfoot, would you turn your microphone?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can all hear you.
First off, the bill, one of the bill sponsors is alleged to have said that the hearings would be held on the proposal through the election committee process. However, no hearings were ever held. I'm sure we're all surprised at hearing something like that. That this legislation was another one of those that got passed in the middle of the night before dawn in the last days of the legislative section. Seems to me that doesn't give you a lot of time to review and look at and understand what's included in the bill and what the ramifications are, or the cause and effect of passing something like this is going to have on the counties. It's pointed out that municipalities have had the ability to change the years from odd to even, or for the past 100 years, and they haven't done it. Establishing local elections, the schedule for them is the right of local government, not the state to interfere further in home rule legislation. The sponsor of the assembly bill indicated that no messages of support have been received for this proposal from any of the 57 counties or 933 towns across the state of New York. How loud does that speak? How loud? In addition to that, no public output, no discussion regarding the impacts of the proposed legislation, and completely outside of the normal committee process. If those aren't enough reasons for the governor to veto those two bills, I can't imagine what's going to happen down the road. This is nothing more than one party looking to gain, what do I want to say, an outside chance of garnering more votes when in the even years, national elections are held and draw significantly more people to them than the odd years. So I think that would be plain as the nose on your face to anybody that read this, looked at it, understood it, and did a critical analysis of it. So I thank you all for your support and your presumed support. And I hope that the governor will take this and put it in the trash can.
Thank you, Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Lightfoot, for bringing this up. I think, the a lot of members of the public are probably a little confused about what this bill is about. But really, as Mr. Lightfoot pointed out, by getting elections, local elections onto even years, what you're going to see happen is instead of a discussion and a healthy discussion about the issues in local towns and communities, those kinds of discussions will be lost in the greater debate going on in the national and congressional and other elections. Communities right now have that opportunity to have local discussions about the issues facing them and to mobilize voter support about candidates who are proposing to improve the lives of the people in their communities. There's, in this day and age, sadly, there's only so much attention available. And as you mix those local elections in with the presidential and the congressional and all the other, major races that go on these days, and all of the TV advertising and all of the robocalls and all of the newfangled ways that they have to try to influence people to vote. Basic local elections in our communities, those discussions will be lost. Those discussions will not be noticed and will be drowned out by this bill. And that really is the purpose of this bill. The purpose of this bill is to drown out those local voices, drown out those local discussions, and get everyone whipped up on the national and the state issues and go to the polls and vote party line and not think about and not know about what's happening in their own communities. So please join us in supporting this and sending a message to Albany. Stay out of our local elections. We should have that right to set the dates so that we can have those discussions in our localities and decide what's best for our localities.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan. Mrs. Haggett and Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan, for that phrase, getting whipped up about elections, because I get whipped up about every election. I love to vote. I love it. Speaking of discussions, I had one with a person from the Board of Elections, and after having that conversation, after Mr. Lightfoot had sent us information about this resolution, I will support this. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hall. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have perceived some significant impacts of this law or going to law on the legal authority of municipalities, local government, and if I may, I'd like to recognize our county attorney to speak to some of those potential impacts and what they may forbear for future concerns. That's all right.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. From a factual standpoint, I'm not sure that I can add much more. Maybe because I can what Ms. Haggard on. But I will note this, New York State is one of the few states that has long recognized in the Constitution from the authority of local government to create another affairs. That's why we have the municipal home rule law. That's why we have civic constitution, the municipal authority. That is, I think, significant in the fact that out of all 50 states, we saw fit in this state to try to craft within our own constitution, guiding principle that we want local affairs and local communities to be governed at the local level. When our country was founded, our legal system was built upon the premise that the locality had the greatest ability to govern its own affairs, because who better than the people who actually lived in the locality to be able to gauge who were citizens of upstanding right, who were those individuals that might be more predisposed to commit crimes. That's why we wound up with local justices in the manner that we did. That's why we wound up with local court system in the way we did. Towns, the villages, the city forms of justice system. So we have not only constitutionally enshrined, but historically enshrined a huge tradition of protecting legally the ability of localities to be able to govern its own affairs. And I think for the last 200 years, if not longer, this state, and more specifically, the towns and the villages and the cities have been able to manage their affairs and govern their affairs even better than the state itself has been able to. The counties are a perfect example of being close enough to the various voices that need to be heard, and also close enough to the various problems that need to be dealt with, that we have been the stewards of the real property taxation. We have been the stewards of the various legal ramifications, the legal machinations that have the greatest bearing upon a general citizen's life. So elections are the pinnacle of the American citizen involvement, specifically the pinnacle of a local involvement. And I think, as Mr. Reagan pointed out, this is an attempt to remove the local flavor, the local flair, the local involvement that has been hallmark of towns, villages, cities, and counties engagement in the various citizens' lives. So from a legal standpoint, I think it's very concerning that this would go through with an effort to try to deprive the local citizenry of this hallowed tradition that we enjoy and that they have benefited from for over 200 years.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any Mr. Chair, let's be added from sponsor.
Certainly. Anyone else? Ms. Curran?
I would just like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
Okay, thank you. My old buddy, the starving rancher in Lisbon, Mr. Pat Green, who I miss. The government closest to the people is the strongest, would be his famous saying. You know, and my dad would just say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I would suggest we leave it be and move on to another resolution. All in favor?
Right.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, old and new business. Anyone have any old business to come before the board? Any new business to come before the board? Ms. Curran first, and then Mr. Denise.
So I would talk quickly about two things. One is Dan Stack's resolution about not using our college housing for immigrants. We have a really hard time taking care of the medical problems we have in our own communities. We frequently are shipping out to Rochester, Albany. We have limited services. There's simple operations. We don't have surgeons that do anymore. Nobody puts a pacemaker in here anymore. And regularly now we're transferring people out of the county because there's not enough beds in the county for all the people who need just simple inpatient stays for antibiotics or other things. So to take on additional people when we know that we don't have the ability to take care of them physically, I feel would be a very bad idea. That's number one. Number two, quickly, is the drug raids in the last week showed us that we have psilocybin, which is a hallucinogenic in our community. I'm concerned for our young children. I'm concerned that we're not hearing enough about education on the things that are at risk to them. And I'm hoping that we can do something from the county to get some of that education out there.
Thank you, Ms. Curran. Mr. Denise. Mr. Chair.
This is actually an announcement from the planning department in the Environmental Protection Board. Everyone should have received a yellow postcard in your mailbox, and which announces the Ag Tour on Friday, August 18th. This year, attendees will be visiting 3 farm operations in the area. Ray and Megan Bodish with the Never Tire Farms, the largest and automated wholesale greenhouse operation in the county. Robert and Linda Zufall's organic dairy operation, 15-acre solar energy facility, and Peter Braun with Woodcrest Dairy, family's new constructed biodigester. Because the tour is going to start at mid-morning, this year's tour will include a box lunch at Zufall's farm. We haven't been able to have this in the last 2 years, COVID, so I would hardly urge anyone that's available to go, try to make arrangements if they can attend.
Thank you, Mr. Denisha. And that is in the Mighty Metropolis, Lisbon, I believe all 3. Welcome to my territory. Ms. Taggart.
If I may ask a question of Mr. Denisha or the planning board, is it necessary to RSVP?
Yeah.
Yes, we'd appreciate that, just so we know what kind of transportation we need.
Thank you.
We haven't done that in quite a while, and I'd encourage you all to try to make it. It's pretty interesting. Last one we did was out in Black Lake, and Brook. I think we went to the winery and Wilson Farms. I think it was Fulbert that year. Mr. Webster.
Is it gonna be like carpooling, or you're gonna have a bus, or how are you gonna do that?
We'll get a bus.
Oh, okay.
Or you can drive yourself. Yeah. Mr. Perkins, I'm sorry.
Trying to debate. It's more of a comment. We have the citizen participation. I welcome it. I'm glad we have it. We respectfully listen to everybody. But we also have the Pledge of Allegiance. And there were some people here tonight that did not participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I found that very disrespectful. And I wish people would participate.
Thank you. Point noted. Anyone else? Let's move on to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Being no committee reports, we have a need for executive session.
Just for appointments.
That's it. A motion to move into an executive session before Mr. Button gets involved. Mr. Byrne, Mr. Finn, Ms. Hager. All in favor?
Aye.